All right, let's dive into the world of Palantir. It can feel pretty complex, but we're going to break down what their software, Foundry, Ontology, AIP, actually does. We're going to get past all the buzzwords and see how it's really designed to change the way huge organizations work from the inside out.
So it all starts with a problem that almost every large company or government agency knows all too well. They are absolutely drowning in data. I mean, you've got databases, you've got sensor logs, spreadsheets flying around, dashboards for everything, just a complete flood of information. And yet, with all this data, making clear, fast decisions is still somehow incredibly difficult. It's because all that information is broken up, it's stuck in different silos, and it just doesn't paint one single coherent picture.
And this really gets to the heart of what Palantir is trying to fix. See, the problem isn't that we need more data. Not at all. The real challenge is that most places just don't have a single shared operational model of themselves. A unified understanding of how all the different pieces of the puzzle actually connect and function in the real world. So this is where Palantir Foundry enters the picture. And it's not just another data platform or some fancy dashboard. Its entire purpose, really, is to build that model of reality. It starts by grabbing all those disconnected data sources and begins to weave them together, constructing a digital representation of the whole organization. This model has a name. It's called an ontology. And honestly, this is probably the most critical and most misunderstood concept of the whole thing. An ontology stops you from thinking about data as just rows and columns in a spreadsheet. Instead, it represents the business as a system of actual, real-world objects, things like machines, suppliers, products, maybe insurance policies, or even patients. And crucially, it maps out the relationships between all of them.
Let me give you a really simple example of how this works. Let's say a machine produces a specific component. Okay, that component then gets put into a final product. Later, that product might have a defect, which then triggers an inspection. The ontology is what maps all of these real-world cause and effect connections into one single connected model.
Let's make it even more concrete. Think about a factory. In a factory, the ontology would define every single part of the production process. It would know what each machine does, what materials are being used, who's working on the line, what defects might pop up, and how all of that affects the final product. It's basically a living, breathing map of the entire operation. But what's cool is how flexible this concept is. For an insurance company, for instance, the objects are totally different, but the principle is exactly the same. The ontology defines what a policy is, what a claim is, and it maps how risk from thousands of individual policies adds up and flows through the entire system. It's modeling the specific reality of that business. So here's the crucial point. Once that ontology is in place, everyone in the organization, from the person on the factory floor all the way up to the CEO, is working from the exact same definition of reality. All those endless arguments over whose data is right or whose spreadsheet is the most up-to-date, they just disappear. And what you're left with are the real strategic trade-offs that actually matter and need to be discussed. Okay, so now that we have that solid foundation built, this is where artificial intelligence comes in. Palantir's AIP doesn't just get slapped on top of a bunch of messy data. No, it plugs directly into the ontology. It's designed from the ground up to operate inside this model of reality, not just looking at it from the outside. And the difference it makes is, well, it's huge. Think about it. Most AI systems, they're powerful, for sure, but they don't really understand the context of a specific organization. They just generate plausible-sounding text. But because AIP is grounded in the ontology, its agents already know what a machine is, what a supply chain problem looks like, and what actions are actually possible. They're not just guessing, they're reasoning within a defined system. And being grounded like that completely changes what the AI can safely do. Instead of just writing a summary report, an AI agent can propose real, concrete actions. It can flag a problem, simulate the downstream effects of different choices, and even kick off workflows to fix things, always, and this is important, with a human in the loop to make the final call. So when you put it all together, you have Foundry creating the model, the ontology defining reality, and AIP giving you the reasoning on top. You're basically transforming the whole organization. You go from being just a collection of separate tools and departments to becoming a single, coherent operating system. The organization itself starts to act like an intelligence system, one that can sense problems and respond to them in real time. What you end up with over time isn't some static report or a one-and-done project. It becomes a living, breathing digital twin of the entire enterprise. It's a model that's constantly being updated and refined as the real-world business changes. And it gets smarter and more capable as it learns.
And that, at its core, is what Palantir's platforms are really doing.
They're creating a digital version of reality that allows intelligence, both human and machine, to work together because they're both grounded in the same truth. Which, leaves us with one final really powerful question to think about. What actually happens when an entire organization shares one single source of truth? How does that fundamentally change the speed, the quality, and maybe even the ambition of every decision they make?